September, and it sure does feel like fall because people are falling left and right. I hate starting the show on obits, Tim, but man, it's been a rough couple of weeks.
What are we going to do? And, interesting, the whole range of folks. So we lost Michael K. Williams.
Which was unexpected. That was premature. Yeah.
Look, Michael. I knew Michael only slightly. Certainly interviewed him several times over many years. Great, interesting story, Michael. But Michael suffered from issues around addiction that were connected to issues around child abuse. And all kinds of other things, which he talked about many times in public. And sometimes he would beat that demon, and sometimes the demon would catch him.
Super talented. The Wire, just a huge figure.
His Chalky White on Boardwalk Empire, and just recently, and How They See Us, and Lovecraft Country. I think he was nominated for one of those at the recent Emmy Awards. There, and people with nothing but wonderful things to say about Michael K. Williams. So and then we lost A.J. Johnson. A.J. Johnson, young black actor, relatively speaking to me, 55 years old when he died. Folks will know A.J. from the Fridays movies franchise.
So also too young before his time.
Oh, only 55 years old. And my goddaughter brought me in a photograph of something she found on Instagram, and it's like the cast of Fridays, right? It with X's next to all the people who it's like, geez, screw you, because Bernie Mac is gone, and we lost.
It's Cube. We got Cube. Cube's the only one. He'll be the only one left, and that's why it's kind of weird that he's trying to reboot the franchise because there's no one left.
I'm like, dude, Tiny's gone. I'm like, who's going to be in this movie?
Crazy.
So he's gone, and of course, the exquisite Jane Powell.
Yeah.
Lost Jane Powell. Now, Jane, real long life, 1929.
I didn't even realize. I didn't even realize she was still alive, to be honest. I saw that she had passed. I thought, holy cow, Jane Powell was still alive? That was one of those where you just didn't know, right?
My God.
Because she's one of the old great ones. But Royal Wedding with Fred Astaire,
Seven Brides.
Yeah, one of the great all-time greats.
One of the great exquisite redheads, Jane Powell. So
But let's talk about the big one. The really big one that I think just hit everybody in the gut because nobody knew he was sick. And I went to YouTube, and you know how YouTube gives you little recommendations, and you'll see a little tiled picture, and it'll show you, it's like 16 different videos that are all recommended for you. And yesterday, all 16 recommendations were Norm Macdonald bits.
Norm Macdonald.
Every single one.
And Norm, very private, sort of like kept it to himself. Not unlike Chadwick Boseman, not too terribly long ago. And only a few friends and family knew that he was dealing with cancer. What's amazing, Norm Macdonald, sure, love me some Norm Macdonald, but when it's all sort of gathered together in one spot, and you sort of see him doing his bit on Weekend Update as the anchor guy that he was. You see him doing that Burt Reynolds. You see him doing that
Turd Ferguson. It's a funny name.
Turd Ferguson. When you see them gather all of those things together, you realize, geez, Williker, this guy was funny.
Oh, he was so funny.
And it was always funny to me. I love that sitcom that Norm did. Where he played the hockey player who had gotten kicked out of the NHL for being like a brute and it was a very short-lived sitcom. But I got to tell you, that thing was funny as heck to me. But mostly he was just this sort of quintessential supporting guy. Norm, so whether it was in a movie with David Spade and Chris Farley and all the other guys, there would be Norm, sort of like in the corner, just tossing out gems. Norm Macdonald.
I was privileged to see Norm once live in person. And I think I've told this story on the show before, but I'm going to tell it again. And he was it was a comedy panel at the Lowe's Hotel in Santa Monica. And it was, talking about comedy writing. And this was a big kind of a writing, conference. It was Writers on Writing or whatever, one of those, some title like that. So it was a lot of screenwriters and a lot of aspiring writers and panels and, people swapping cards will never actually call each other. And there was a panel on comedy writing. And I remember one of the panelists was Ed Solomon. And Ed Solomon said a very, very funny thing about how, he recently got a letter from Columbia Pictures saying that we're not going to be able to pay you residuals for Men in Black anymore because, it's just not, it's now in the law, it's a money loser. It's just never going to make money. So we just don't have any residuals to share with you. And then he said, so they must be in it for the art because they also just hired me to write the sequel. Big laughter. And Norm Macdonald was also on that panel. And the panel was being moderated by Hal Cantor. Now, Hal Cantor, a legend. If you don't know who Hal Cantor was, Hal Cantor, major comedy writing legend in television and movie. It's just the whole thing. I mean, he's just an epic, legendary, original television sitcom comedy genius. And he was a crusty old guy at the time. And Hal Cantor clearly didn't want to be there. Somebody threw some money at him and said, hey, come and moderate this panel. So he's sitting there kind of grumbly and grouchy. And Norm, of course, was sitting there with that dumb grin on his face that he always had, like he just peed in the punch bowl and he was just waiting to tell you about it. And for like the first 5-6 minutes of the panel, every single time Hal Cantor started to say something, Norm would talk over him. and this went on, and you could tell Norm had totally planned this out, and he was just gonna have so much fun with Hal. And Hal Cantor would say, "We'd like to thank you all for coming here." And Norm would go, "Hey, I know how to thank a person for it," and he just butt right in and just step on it. He stepped on everything he said. And at a certain point, Hal Cantor just stops and looks at him over the rim of his glasses like he was going to murder him. And the look on Norm's face was so funny because it was just this sheer childlike bliss. And I think that's what defined him, was that there was even when, he could talk about some pretty blue subjects, but like I watched there's one clip of him on Conan where he was talking about, what was it? What movie was it? That he mistake? Oh, Pulp Fiction. And he said he turned on the television. He was in a hotel room and it looked like it had Pulp Fiction on, but it turned out that it was Plump Friction, and it was a porno. He goes, yeah, you ever watch a porno? And Conan's cracking up, and he's talking about porn, but in a really whimsical, childlike way. That innocence, that sweet kind of dumbfounded innocence. He's just priceless.
He's one of the few who could get away with kind of laughing at his own jokes and having that smile on his face, Norm.
Yeah.
When it's what got him fired off SNL.
I know.
What he was very proud of, but he simply, this was during the whole, the Nicole O.J. Simpson, all of that, the trial, the glove, the whole thing, and a good chunk of the comedy on SNL, played off of that stuff, and they made hay of it. Norm, when he was doing Weekend Update, the anchor guy, simply refused to stop doing Nicole. He just wouldn't stop. Sometimes he would just say, Nicole Simpson. Okay. That was the whole joke. That was the whole joke.
And here's what makes it even funnier. So a more recent, just within like the last couple of years, there was a clip from David Spade's Comedy Central show where he had a bunch of the old gang back together who had done Weekend Update, right? Dennis Miller and right, they were all there. And Norm was one of them. And they were all paying tribute to Norm, and they talked about that. And they brought up the OJ joke thing. And they said, "Would you tell any OJ jokes today?" And Norm says, he goes, "No, that was during the trial. He was found innocent by a jury of his peers, and as far as I'm concerned, he's an innocent man, and he's a hell of a guy. I'd love to get together with him." I mean, he flipped. He goes, "A hell of a guy," and they all tried to get him to tell an OJ joke, and he goes, "No, he's a free man. He's a free man. He's a hell of a guy, and I think I wish him the best." And he would not tell an OJ joke. He wouldn't go there.
Beautiful. Yes, beautiful. Well,
you just flip it around.
It's kind of funny though, the folks who you don't realize. Look, I mean, if Norm hadn't passed away the other day, I'm not sure that I would have been, thinking about Norm Macdonald as one of the sort of stand-up and comedic, geniuses of our time, like Richard Pryor or whatever. But when put in a very sort of specific context, you just never know who's gonna be the person that was out there shining, and it turns out that one of them was Norm.
So let's talk Emmys. I did not watch. I have not watched. Honestly, I have not watched the Emmys in about 30 years. I gave up when Hill Street Blues went off the air, when China Beach failed to win, or I can't remember what it was. But for some reason, like around 1992, 93, I just said, I'm done with this thing, and I didn't watch. So how was it?
Look, I've been in and out on the Emmys over that period of time myself. Sometimes, just for work, I would have to deal with whatever was going on the Emmys. The Emmys were fine. They looked decent. They were, relatively speaking, in-person Emmys. They had some people in London, obviously everybody else, more or less in town, and the fully vaccinated blah, 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 blah Emmys, hosting a job done by Cedric the Entertainer. Some, a couple of funny bits here and there, pre-recorded bits that were kind of interesting. Generally speaking, the winners, I have to say that, I don't watch or haven't watched enough television, particularly network television, to really tell you whether or not the winners and whatnot made any sense. I know that This Is Us used to win a whole lot on the Emmys, and I didn't see it, this time. As one of the big winners across the board on the Emmys. Saw a lot of women. So, I don't know. I suppose that the Emmys were okay, is what I have to say about the Emmys. But folks who are more attuned to the television, see, I don't understand the categories of the Emmys anymore. Back in the day when you were talking about it, it was very easy to understand the categories. Now, I'm with streaming and everything, I just don't understand the categories and what the hell is going on.
When it's become like the Grammys to me. And I have friends who belong to the Music Academy, and they no longer trust it. They think it's crooked and corrupt. They say, how is it possible that this album and not this album and so forth? Now there's so much product that there are behind the scenes machinations, right? There's politics going on over how you get nominated and the nominating committees and all this stuff. And it's seemingly getting there with the Emmys now too. When it was just 3 networks and 7 days a week, that's manageable. You got prime, it's all prime time, and that's a 3-hour block. That's 3 times 3 times 7. That's not unmanageable, right? That's how many shows you got. Maybe, half-hour shows, you throw them in there. But, that's fine. That's not 9 hours a night for 7 nights. That's you can manage that. Now, there are more shows being greenlit every month on Netflix than were produced in the entire decade of the 1970s. That's too much product. You can't wrap your arms around that. You can't wrap your head around that. Yeah. So I don't really understand, I guess that's why things like The Crown, which have been on forever and got, are very expensive, keep racking things up because it's The Crown.
Yeah. But, I wonder if it becomes a sort of numbers thing. And then on the movie side, because there'll be these made for TV movies and these sort of categories, I don't really understand what they mean. It seems to me like you end up with a situation where a quote unquote film can vie for an Emmy, while at the same time vie for an Academy Award. I'm like, well, how is that possible? That doesn't make
I don't know.
Sense.
It makes no sense.
But there it is, So, yeah.
Well, let's before we get into the DVDs and Blu-rays, let's talk a little bit about trailers. A lot of new trailers dropping for movies coming up the end of the year. What do we think about the new Matrix?
Look, everybody told me you have to watch this trailer. Not only did this trailer not excite me per se, it seemed fairly sort of incomprehensible. It's like I really couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. And then, some characters there, some characters not there. And then I'm asking myself, how come all of these people got older in the Matrix? That doesn't. I'm looking right at Neo's face there, and that's the face of a 55-year-old man. Last time I saw him, he was 32, and it's the fucking Matrix. He should look the same in the Matrix, anyway. So you have all of that. So anyway, look, I get it. I noticed that it's only directed by
one Wachowski. One Wachowski. That's right.
So I'm not sure what's going on there. You were just telling me about the Coen brothers.
That's one Coen.
Yeah,
that's one Coen. So these sibling teams are getting split up this year. Let's move to that. The Tragedy of Macbeth. Joel Coen going solo, writing and directing Shakespeare, and it is an amazing trailer. It's black and white. It's Academy aspect ratio. Joel Coen has gone full art house without Ethan. What's going on there? But it's gorgeous, man.
Denzel, and finally appropriate. For his age and and all of that kind of stuff. He just so correct. Denzel had been there before, though. What did he do? Did he do Othello? Was it Othello?
Much Ado About? He did Much Ado About. He did do Othello was Lawrence Fishburne talking about the Matrix.
Lawrence,
no, he was in Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah, with Keanu.
Along with Keanu. That's right. They played brothers. Wow, it all comes full circle. This is crazy.
It's so crazy.
Much Ado About Nothing.
That looks fantastic. That looks absolutely fantastic.
Looks amazing. Looks amazing. I cannot wait. I didn't even know that thing was coming. It's made for Apple by A24. A24 made it for Apple Plus, and man, I cannot wait. I just cannot wait. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Well, let's dive right into things.
Where do you start?
I'm going to start. Let me. I got a whole bunch of Kino here, Kino and some other stuff. And let me burn through this and just let people know what fun things are out there on the radar real quickly. Got sorted these all out into appropriate groups. The first one is we got 4 more volumes of the Forbidden Fruit stuff from Kino. This is Kino and Something Weird doing exploitation films, resurrecting all that fun old stuff. And this is all that Forbidden Fruit exploitation stuff from the 60s. And it's a riot. You got to love this stuff like I do to actually really, really appreciate it. But one of them is The Lash of the Penitents. This is, a strange romance among strange people. I mean, this is really, really very early exploitation stuff from 1936. But it gets into like this weird religious cult, and it's very early S&M imagery. So for people who love this kind of ephemera, you'll probably get a kick out of it. The Wages of Sin is a lot more sort of memorable and noteworthy. This is from 1966, and this was one of those. This is one of those hygiene films that was meant to sort of scare people, kind of, all about, don't get pregnant and birth control and all the rest of that. So anything related to childbirth and pregnancy and venereal disease was always hot. Peekaboo is this is a Lillian Hunt thing. This is just burlesque. This also includes B-Girl Rhapsody. This is, just capturing a particular moment in time. 2 films by Lillian Hunt, B-Girl Rhapsody and Peekaboo, from the early 1950s, right, when this stuff was just kind of starting to get into the grindhouse drive-in thing. And then the last one, 2 films by Robert C. D'Ertano, somebody I'm not necessarily familiar with, also from the early 1950s. And it's Girl Gang and Pin Down Girl. Not Pin Up Girl, Pin Down Girl. Also known as Blonde Pickup and Racket Girls. But, this is kind of early crime exploitation stuff. It's like kind of a little down and dirty noir. So anyway, looks good. Something Weird video is really, really fun. They have all kinds of great stuff. From Paramount, we have Hardball with Keanu and Diane Lane. Keanu before he got hairy. It's funny, look at him now. He's got the beard and the long hair, and he's been doing that John Wick thing for a while. You forget that he used to be real kind of clean shaven. So I mean, that's a fine movie. The Crocodile Dundee trilogy.
Oh wow!
All together on Blu-ray from Paramount, and that's fine. It's got not much by way of extras, but it's the 3 films, and they get worse as they go along. And then the Paramount Presents line, we have some films that totally I had forgotten about. Breakdown with Kurt Russell from 1997. Good, solid little kind of modern noir. That was a fun film at the time. And we then also have Bugsy Malone.
Oh wow! With the kids.
The Kids, the musical, the late Alan Parker's directing debut. Absolutely tremendous. Young Jodie Foster, young Scott Baio, and it totally holds up, man. 1976. I'll tell you, that film it's precious. There's never been anything else like it.
What a high concept kind of thing there.
You got to be able to pull it off. Could never get that greenlit today. Could never get that greenlit today. Nobody would touch it. Nashville, Robert Altman's great Nashville, tremendous early kind of portmanteau film, beautifully rendered on Blu-ray here. It's really, really good. It's got a commentary by Robert Altman on it that was recorded, obviously, quite a while back, but it's a great commentary and, just an amazing movie. All the multi-threads that go into that tapestry of America and that tapestry of that place and time.
Cast, it's ridiculous. Because I think we lost Ned Beatty last year, something like that. And Shelley Duvall and Black, and I mean, geez.
And in 1975, Henry Gibson is just amazing in this. And I knew Henry's son, Jimmy, right about this time, so I knew a little bit about what was going on. And then George Stevens' remarkable A Place in the Sun with Elizabeth Taylor, Montgomery Clift, and Shelley Winters, based on an American tragedy by Theodore Dreiser. And I just love this movie. I think Shelley Winters is the unsung star of this film. Monty Clift is, a tragic figure. Elizabeth Taylor is appropriately beautiful and kind of porcelain. But man, Shelley Winters just kills it in this movie. And, she was supposed to be like an ingenue, and she decided at a certain point in her career, she was not going to be like her buddy Marilyn. She said, I'm going to go frumpy, I'm going to go unattractive, and I'm going to be a real actress because otherwise my career will last about 16 seconds. And Shelley Winters wound up being a frumpy actress who had a long career, and she won an Oscar. So, there's that.
Yeah. Montgomery Clift, that movie was the first movie he did after the accident,
yes, that's right.
And something about that comes through in that character that he's playing, because you can see that scar on his face there. And he was a changed person after that completely, but he also changed as an actor. In some ways, I thought he was a better actor after those years, but it affected him obviously personally, and
Well, it got inside his head in a way that I think made him work harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got a bunch from the MVD Rewind collection as well. They're made to look like old VHS tapes with the stickers all over them. Be kind, rewind, please rewind, all that kind of stuff. The first one was Mortuary, which, it's perfectly fine horror film from the period. There were a ton of them. It ages in a rather silly kind of a way, but Linda Day George is fine. It's nice to see her again. Also have The Dark, a chilling tale of alien terror. This has one of my favorite stickers on it. Staff pick. Remember they used to do that at the video store. Yeah. Staff pick. I wonder how many of those were Tarantino's staff pick. This is this is fine. It's basically a ripoff of Alien and every other damn thing from that period, but it's okay. William Devane, kind of brings a little bit of legitimacy to it. Richard Jekyll looks like the monster that he is in everything. Kathy Lee Crosby's in this. Right, Richard Jekyll, just another one of those creepy faces that showed up on everything. But it's it's fine. It's not brilliant. What I love about this though is it has this thing that you don't see on movies anymore. In the billing block on the back, it says a signet paperback. Remember every movie used to have a book. That was great. We also have The House on Sorority Row, which was a good kind of schlocky slasher sorority horror film. Again, not great. Nothing really to distinguish it. Shelley Winters actually played in a few of those. And here's the one of these that I really want to make mention of, The Go-Go Boys, which is the inside story of Cannon Films. This is not an old exploitation film. This is about them. This is the documentary all about Golan and Globus and the whole drama of, the rise and fall of Cannon Films and everything that they did. Really amazing. My friend Martin was originally supposed to be substantially interviewed for this and never was, because Cannon made one of his films, The Ultimate Solution of Grace Quigley. But otherwise, they get into everything. Michael Dudikoff and Van Damme and Stallone and Charles Bronson and obviously Chuck Norris. They all show up to share their stories, and it's really a rock and roll and ride. It's a terrific documentary. It's a beautiful look at how you build a company and how you don't build a company at the same time.
There were a few of those companies around and about, operating at different levels.
Yeah.
Canon was, one notch below, say, Carolco. It was Carolco that did the first Terminator and all that, right?
Yep.
Which of course was one notch below the actual studios. And you could see how each at each notch, they aspired to be on the next notch and to work their way up. And the sort of elements that they worked with was all the elements of talent, the actors, the writers, the directors, producers were always just one notch. You know, if you go one notch below Canon and you're at like PM Entertainment, you know, the level. You know, so yeah, it just sort of, and everybody just wanted to move up. And usually it's that moment when they tried to make the move to the next level that they destroyed themselves.
It's very true. Canon kind of, they almost turned with Runaway Train and Grace Quigley and a few other things. They almost made that turn, but couldn't really do it. I got 4 here from the Warner Archive Collection. One Crazy Summer with John Cusack, Demi Moore, and Bobcat Goldthwait. You know, the only reason to see this is Bobcat Goldthwait, who is just so weird. But you know, otherwise it's kind of a silly little artifact written and directed by Savage Steve Holland back when he was still going by the moniker.
Yeah.
Another Thin Man movie, Shadow of the Thin Man. They're slowly putting all these out on Blu-ray. I can't recommend them highly enough. William Powell and Myrna Loy are just extraordinary in all of these things. And we also have In the Good Old Summertime, which I adore, with Judy Garland and Van Johnson, a remake of A Shop Around the Corner, the old Ernst Lubitsch film. Was also redone as You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And here's the thing about The Good Old Summertime, which I think is the best of all of them, frankly. You see a young Liza in this. She's a baby at the very, very end of this thing, which is absolutely adorable. But I love this movie because some friends of ours, and he's deceased now, but he had a 35 millimeter projector in their condo because he was an old movie buff. And I remember when I was probably 14, 15, you know, we were over there for dinner and he said, "Hey, I'm going to show you one of my prints." And we sit down and the freaking projector boots up and the screen drops right in front of their big glass window. And I watched In the Good Old Summertime on this giant screen in their living room on 35. And it was amazing. It was wonderful. He had an actual print of this movie.
Oh my goodness.
Such a special thing. And then lastly, Prince of the City, dude. Sidney Lumet, Prince of the City, based on the Bob Daly book. This thing holds up, man. I used to think this was like a flawed Sidney Lumet film, but it really holds up. This is just a freaking powerful movie. Treat Williams has never been better. It's just a really great, tough cop film, and I think still one of Sidney Lumet's best.
Well, I never saw why people never thought of it in a category with like what was the Serpico. There were several of them that came out during that period. You know,
Fort Apache, the Bronx,
maybe even those Popeye Doyle films. You know, So to me, it always lived right in the pocket with that. You know, I mean, Treat Williams is no Al Pacino, but nevertheless, you know, you got Jerry Orbach and Richard Fontenoy and all this kind of stuff. And fantastic movie.
Now, Tim, you've got a little script that draws substantially on Tremors, at least kind of tips its hat to it. I got Tremors 2, 3, and 4 here.
What's up with that? Why 2, 3, and 4? What's going on there? I know.
Well, they're clearly really bad at killing these things because they keep coming back. So,
why would the first Tremors not be a part of, because it's the one to, you know, so why is the first Tremors not a part of it? They're all Universal, right? The first Tremors was a Universal.
They're all Universal. They're all Universal. And it's just utterly weird. So here's the thing. They keep losing people in these movies. They keep losing cast members who say, "Yeah, I don't want anything to do with that anymore." So Fred Ward is holding the thing down in Tremors 2. It's a Fred Ward movie, right? Yeah. And then after Tremors 2, Fred Ward's like, I'm out, dude. I'm tapping out. No more of these for me. And then it was like Michael Gross said, "Well, I guess it falls to me. I'm the bench." So Michael Gross steps up, and Tremors 3 and 4 star headline Michael Gross, which is really kind of weird that Michael Gross headlined a couple of, but anyway, there it is. It's, it's the same stuff through and through. It is what it is.
But apparently they're not nearly as good at killing those worms.
Yeah, terrible.
They should have been in the first film. First film, 1990, dude. That's long. That franchise. I think that franchise even had a television spinoff, if I'm not mistaken.
It's utterly crazy, completely crazy. So here, let me blow through these Kinos right here, and then we'll move on to some new stuff. Kino's got a couple of box sets that I highly recommend. Western Classics 2, not as strong as the first one, but it's got 3 good, solid programmers in it. Gun for a Coward, Pillars of the Sky, and The Redhead from Wyoming. I would highly recommend The Redhead from Wyoming because that redhead is Maureen O'Hara. And I cannot get enough of Maureen O'Hara. She's amazing. It's a good film. It's a great role for her. Carole Lombard shows up in the Carole Lombard Collection 2, which is 3 more great Carole Lombard movies. The Princess Comes Across, Love Before Breakfast, and Hands Across the Table. All of them absolutely terrific. If there's a really, really great one in here, I think it's probably Hands Across the Table. That's one of the 2 that she does with Fred MacMurray. She's also with Fred MacMurray in The Princess Comes Across. But really, Hands Across the Table is just an absolutely lovely film. She's one of the all-time great movie beauties of that wonderful early period. And then a lot of special Kino titles here. They come with the slip cover. They kind of set them aside, the ones they want to call attention to. And that includes Spaceballs, which is starting to look a little underrated because, compared to some of the actual Star Wars films, I think it's Spaceballs understands the saga better. A new Blu-ray remaster with great Tim Lucas audio commentary and tons of featurettes and documentaries of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is, you want to remember this Clint. Not the Clint who's 91 years old playing a character that was written to be 38 years old in
Cry Macho.
We just mentioned Runaway Train. That is also out from Kino. That is one of those canon films that we just mentioned that was the turn to try to do something more legit. It is still absolutely first rate. Great audio commentary with Eric Roberts and film historians David Del Valle and C. Courtney Joyner.
That is, if I'm not mistaken, Runaway Train.
Andrei
Konchalovsky is Danny Trejo's first film out of prison.
Really?
He's Danny Trejo's in the film, and it's literally his first film out of prison. Can you imagine working with Konchalovsky, your first job as an actor? And he was hired to teach fighting because his whole thing to do with boxing. That's what he was hired to teach. And Andre, being the realist that he was like, hey, why don't we just get that guy? That guy can do it.
Can you imagine? There's a conversation. I'm going to tell you right now. There's a conversation he's having with some of his former cellmates. It's like, oh, hey, man, I just got out. I just got a job. Did you? What'd you get? Yeah, I got a job, doing dishes at this little taco joint. It's like, I'm out of prison. It's my first job out of prison. It's all right. Well, what was your first job out of prison? Oh, I was teaching boxing on an Andrei Konchalovsky movie for Canon Films.
Yeah. Then he hired me to act in, and I got a SAG card. Now I own a taco stand.
now I own your taco stand.
And I've got 85 film credits and movies in which I'm actually the star. It's just, the arc of things is just you just can't. You just don't know.
I know. Bring me the head of Alfredo Garcia. Great role for Warren Oates in this classic Sam Peckinpah film. It's an acquired taste. Obviously, anything Peckinpah is, but I still think this is an absolutely terrific film. The Hot Spot. The underrated Dennis Hopper, Don Johnson film. Everybody was expecting Dennis Hopper to become this like crazy auteur, and then he settled in after Easy Rider and started doing more conventional films. But I don't think this is a bad movie at all. I think it's, this is 1990. You and I had just met around that time.
Yeah.
I actually think this movie ages pretty well, to be honest. Virginia Madsen, Jennifer Connelly, Charles Martin Smith. It's a really good cast.
Oh, it lives in that whole spot. Liz, and Kettle Hot Tin Ruth. Yeah. It lives right in that sort of Tennessee Williams sort of spot, only a little bit more. I love it.
Jodan Baker and Jim Kelly and Golden Needles. Did you ever see Golden Needles?
I don't know. Let me think about that one for a second.
This is a 1974 film directed by Robert Klaus, right? Coming out of Enter the Dragon. So it was a Fred Weintraub, Paul Heller film. I should have called Zach to talk to him about this. So it's Weintraub, Heller, it's Jim Kelly, it's Robert Klaus, it's like the gang back together minus Bruce Lee.
I did not know this film. I'm looking at it now.
But with Joe Don Baker, it's not bad, man. It's not Enter the Dragon or anything like that. But it's pretty great. It's kind of Enter the Dragon-y, except by way of noir. So it's got kind of it's sort of like a 70s quasi kung fu semi blaxploitation version of the Maltese Falcon.
Well, you got great names in there, dude. You got Burgess Meredith. This thing is Sonny Martin. This thing is packed up.
It's solid. It's a really solid little thing. It's all about this, this legendary ancient Chinese statue, and it's it has it's kind of a Maltese Falcon vibe, but Kelly is terrific, and Joe Don Baker is doing his thing. Also got Arabesque by Stanley Donen, Gregory Peck, and Sophia Loren. All I need to tell you is this is just great 60s style. This is just great mid-60s groove with Stanley Donen doing his thing. It's not quite charade, but it's Gregory Peck and Sophia Loren kind of doing a charade type thing. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, Carl Reiner, late Carl Reiner, directing Steve Martin in this fantastic homage to noir and old movies. Really, really fun what this movie does. Nothing else has done it quite like this. 1982, very fun film, very clever film.
Young Rachel Ward, man. Oh my God, she was so beautiful.
Oh gosh, Rachel Ward. Don't even get me started. Vincent Price in The Last Man on Earth, the based on the same book that the Richard Matheson book I Am Legend, that I Am Legend was based on with Will Smith, that Omega Man was based on with Charlton Heston. But the only one of those that's really faithful to the book is The Last Man on Earth, and Vincent Price is absolutely terrific in it. Beautifully shot. It's really a rock solid film directed by Sidney Salkow, who I know nothing about otherwise, but Price.
A rare sort of straight dramatic performance from Vincent without any sort of horror sort of machinations.
And then we also have Vincent Price in Master of the World, based on the Jules Verne. This is with Charles Bronson. This is from 1961, a younger Vincent Price. Two terrific audio commentaries on here. One by the film historians, Tom Weaver and Vincent Price's biographer, Lucy Chase Williams, and then one by one of the actors, David Frankham. And this is it's fun. It's a little exploitation-y, but it's fun. Then we've got Charles Bronson again in The Valdez Horses. Kind of a straightforward programmer, but very nicely transferred. 1973. Good audio commentary on here by film historian Paul Talbot, who wrote significantly about Charles Bronson. And Stranger on the Run, a great Don Siegel Western with Henry Fonda and Ann Baxter. Funny, I was just watching Dirty Harry the other day. I was telling you this. I've been watching all this crap on Criterion, their New York stuff. I was watching Superfly at one point, and Superfly got me into a vibe, and I went over to HBO Max, and they've got all these Clint Eastwood movies. Like a ton of Eastwood movies. They're paying tribute to Clint with Cry Macho. So I just went right to Dirty Harry, and I'm like, I'm going to watch me some Don Siegel and some Clint. And it was pretty great. Don Siegel, just a really great. I mean, that's where Clint learned all of his craft from.
Oh yeah,
he learned it all from Leone and from Don Siegel. Those are the guys who taught him what to do. Dan Duryea, Sal Mineo, rounding out the cast. Really a pretty terrific kind of a late Western there. And then Coogan's Bluff with Clint, one of his all-time great kind of. Again, Don Siegel directing. This is kind of a pseudo-Western, kind of a quasi-cop film and a Western in one, but very, very good. Susan Clark, Tisha Sterling, Betty Field, Lee J. Cobb rounding out the cast. And then just a few here at the very, very end. We have got some Code Red titles that we get from Kino. Code Red does a lot of culty stuff, and some of this you may recognize, some you may not. One of them is Percy, the story of a very successful transplant. Percy, I'll leave it to you to sort of use your imagination as to what gets transplanted, but we'll just say it's a member. That's what gets transplanted. Really kind of a scandalous film in 1971, and probably still scandalous, but it was a thing. JC. Did you ever see JC?
I don't think so.
JC is like this crazy kind of biker Manson-y thing from 1971. It's like it's a total counterculture, anti-hero rebel movie. Slim Pickens is maybe the most significant person in it, but it really is kind of creepy in the wake of Manson and all that. Like here are the taglines on it. JC preached love, lived violence. And then down here, you're going to get a crack up out of this. JC and his disciples were a gang of broads, bikes, and blacks.
They had to. Why I gotta call the brothers out? What do we gotta do?
Who comes up with that stuff? But it's so 1971. It's so 1971. And then just a few more here. The French Conspiracy by Yves Boisset, which is sort of it's fine. This is a 1972 French cop thing with Jean-Louis Trintignant and Michel Piccoli, Gene Seberg. Good solid cast. Not amazing. Like there are better films in the genre, but it's not a bad one. Death Ring is kind of a sort of a cheesy 1992 action film, straight to video type deal with a lot of.
Billy, yeah, I remember the movie.
Mike Drago, Mike Norris. Yeah, it is whatever. I mean, it's from its era. And then here's the one I think is really terrific: Puff and Stuff, the Puff and Stuff movie, based on the TV show with Martha Raye and Mama Cass. Jack Wilde, of course, Billy Hayes. If you like the show, this thing is even more drug-addled. It's like people just dropped acid and mushrooms and went to see this movie and lost their minds. They did. It's what else? What do you want? And then the last two here, before we move on, the Vestron Video Collectors Series gives us Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat with David Carradine, and the original director's cut of Francis Ford Coppola's Dementia 13, which is worth absolutely having. Dementia 13 has been in so many crappy straight-to-video releases that it's nice to have something that's clean on Blu-ray. It's the director's cut. It's official. Don't get anything else. Take all of your public domain Dementia 13 DVDs and get rid of them. The only one you want is the Vestron Video Collector's Edition from Lionsgate. Dementia 13 director's cut, new, and it is absolutely terrific. All right, Tim, where do we go now?
Well, I popped over some of the new stuff and was taking a look at that as you were going through. I see that the Forever Purge is in the stacks there. The Purge, what are there now? Like about four of those films. The Purge
is something like that now. Yeah.
The Purge Survival, the Forever Purge, the Purge Anarchy, the Purge Election Year. Look, that first Purge back in 2012, interesting notion there at the center of all of that. I didn't like it, but I admitted that there was an interesting notion there that I didn't think they got right. I certainly didn't think that you could get another 4 or 5 movies out of it. Which they did here, right on through, this one, the Forever Purge, which I think gives away in the title. At least they give their intention away in the title. We're gonna do this forever, and I was kind of done with it after the first one. But these sort of genre films tend to sort of eke out a life of their own, because you'll notice that all of the elements of the films are reduced in stature as the number of films go on. So we get down to ones that star people I've never heard of, directed by people I've never heard of, and based on this, that, or the other thing. So the Forever Purge is there. I'm not sure that I needed Cruella.
No, I didn't either.
I'm not sure why I need this story at all. I mean, as much as I wasn't even sure I needed that whole thing with Angelina Jolie. It was okay.
The origin stories, the Disney villain origin stories are kind of getting on my nerves now.
Yeah, exactly. Despite the fact, good cast, Emma Thompson, Emma Stone.
Look, The two Emmas are terrific in this. They really are. I think the supporting cast is terrific. I think it's beautifully made. I mean, it really is just absolutely fantastic directing work by Craig Gillespie. He does a really beautiful job. He's a big cheese now. But I'm not even that big a fan of 101 Dalmatians, to be honest. Not the animated, not the live action with Glenn Close. I don't know that I needed this. It's too much Cruella. She's bad. She wants a coat of dogs.
Yeah.
Switch that entire narrative up for this thing. Now she's like a dog lover. It's like weird.
Oh yeah, they had to switch the narrative because that was always kind of sick in the first place. But apparently, parents back in the day didn't really give a damn about their children's mental health. So I don't know that I needed Cruella, but there it is. I imagine they packed all kinds of goodies on that. What is that? A Blu-ray?
Well, they only sent us the Blu-ray. They did not send us the 4K. Disney's being cheap with the 4Ks lately. But yeah, I mean, there are featurettes, and that's about it. It's EPK stuff, some deleted scenes, nothing really significant. We also have Black Widow. Let's talk about Black Widow for a second. Also sent to us on Blu-ray with a nice red case, but no 4K. So we can't really address that. But did we need a Black Widow?
Well, again, I had a problem with this coming right out of the box. Because here we go into the backstory again. For one thing, to the extent that Black Widow needs a backstory, I think we all kind of knew it. The bells and whistles and details that they added here. No, I definitely didn't need that. The little sister, the fake family, Rachel Weisz and all this kind of stuff. Now, what do I like about this Black Widow, though, since it's easy to kick it? Florence Pugh. Is what I like about it.
Yeah, she's great.
They gave us that young Florence Pugh, and she's a Black Widow's not her little sister, but in the sort of
kind of basically a sister-like, a
sister-like figure in this family that's going on, and she's actually quite delightful in this movie. You cannot muster the sort of drama that one must muster in a film like this because there are a few things that we know even as we were watching this film. For one thing, we know that the Black Widow is going to be just fine at the end of this movie. She's going to make it. So they keep trying to build these moments of tension. What's going to happen to them? Is Ray Winstone going to kill her? Well, no, he's not going to kill her because she's got like 5 more movies to make. So no, he's not going to kill her. She's going to be fine. And for that matter, those of us who have been paying attention know exactly when she buys it. And it ain't in this movie. So trying to create tension with something that you cannot create tension with makes no sense.
And here's the other thing, too.
So ultimately, to answer your question, no, I didn't really need it, but I'm really happy about Florence. I
agree. Florence steals the movie. She has some great moments. She's a terrific actress. I can't wait to see what else she does. But here's the point where that movie, I knew I wasn't really going to like Black Widow. David Harbour's kind of weird, cheesy, fat, has-been Russian version of a Captain America didn't really work for me as a joke. And there's a point in there where they make it very obvious. Hey, you know what movie we're winking at with this? You know what our inspiration is? You know what movie is our touchstone? It's Moonraker, man. And you go, really? Moonraker? Like, I mean, not like The Spy Who Loved Me or Moonraker? Really?
Yeah.
That's what you're going with? They went with Moonraker.
If you got to go to Sean Connery movies, you don't go to look. I like Moonraker as it happens, but it was not a big hit.
No.
Moonraker, Sean Connery film, folks. For most of you who have no idea,
Roger Moore.
I'm sorry, Roger Moore.
Yeah, Roger
Moore movie. For most of you who have no idea, but that's not the film.
Got 5 really kind of all sort of mid-level drama actioners here. They all got good people in them. They're all a little bit just a beat off from where they probably should be. But I'll go through them. Hunter x Hunter with Camille Sullivan, Devon Sawa, Summer H. Howell, and Nick Stahl. This is a wilderness actioner. It's not bad. It's fine. It's a bit of a programmer. Decent little script, but it's more kind of a rental than a buy thing. Flashback has an okay cast. You won't recognize any of these people by name, but you'll probably recognize a few of the faces. Flashback is centered around like high school students, right, and traumatic visions and drugs. And what does this mean about your psyche? And, it gets becomes kind of a personal thrillery journey. Fire is exactly what it suggests. It's like taking what's the Ron Howard thing? Backdraft.
Oh, Backdraft.
It's like Backdraft in the forest. That's all it is, and it's really well done. It's fine. I mean, this was made for Russian television, so but it's very very it's solid. It's good. Never mind the fact that it's Russian. It's well done in a kind of a Hollywood slick way. Chaos Walking with Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland. Anything with Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland is worth watching. They're both terrific actors. Really, really good. The movie is okay. It should be better. Also has some tremendous supporting performances in it by people who deserve to be kind of higher billing. Damian Bashir, Mads Mikkelsen, David Oyelowo, Nick Jonas. I mean, you kind of go, Cynthia Erivo. You're like, holy cow, that's like an Oscar caliber cast. Those are amazing people. They're all Oscar nominees. Well, yeah, it's a fantasy, and everybody kind of comes in for a minute or two and rounds out this well-intentioned but sort of not very well thought out youth fantasy. But you know what? It's fine. I mean, the actors alone are worth taking a look. Yeah. And then Stephen Dorff does in Embattled goes full kind of
that MMA father-son thing.
Yeah. It's not bad. Stephen Dorff started, by the way, in that South African story about where he's a boxer,
the boxing,
John Avildsen thing, right? Yeah. And so it kind of comes full circle. What was that called? Not The Power of One, something like that.
Yeah.
And so it kind of comes full circle. He's been here before, but now he's older and more grizzled, and it's more MMA, and it's a good part for him. Stephen Dorff, really good actor, who's never quite exploded into the mainstream like he probably should have. Shall we do some of the 4K?
Let's. I see.
Is there anything else here?
The Shawshank Redemption. What is that? Is that the film? Or because there's so many, there are all this Shawshank Redemption TV things.
No, this is it. This is our original Shawshank. This is Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. I know. Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman in a 4K Ultra HD of the movie that continues to be the highest rated film on Rotten Tomatoes, which to this day is kind of amazing. But everyone loves this movie. Yeah. Everybody loves this movie. It just it fired on all cylinders. Frank Darabont will never make a better movie. He just won't. Based on the Stephen King short story. I mean, what can you say about this? Everyone loves this movie. It looks gorgeous on 4K. It's absolutely terrific. It comes with a Movies Anywhere code, so you can load this thing up. You can have the disc. You can have it on all of your digital lockers. It's fantastic. I don't know why they didn't come out with this sooner on 4K. It really, really just all the grays and blues and that whole color palette just look absolutely terrific. Clockwork Orange, dude, 50th anniversary.
Really?
Can we say that? We say that?
I guess we just did.
50th anniversary of Clockwork Orange. Malcolm McDowell's been going around doing interviews and saying, I have not watched this movie in years and I don't ever want to watch it again. I've seen it enough. It's really haunting. But you know what? It's still awesome. I mean, also Movies Anywhere code. It totally holds up. Great features on here. Nick Redman, the late Nick Redman, and Malcolm McDowell in audio commentary. A bunch of featurettes, but they're slowly getting all the Kubrick films out on 4K, and wow, this movie still just rips me to pieces. It's so timely. It's so freaking timely. It kills me. I mean,
Kubrick, man. Kubrick, Jesus. Kubrick's been gone, what now? 20 years or something like that?
20 years, yeah.
Easily? That's just absolutely nuts to me.
In the Heights, 4K In the Heights. What was your feeling on In the Heights? Because Lynn Kahn, we've talked a little bit about this, but you tell me.
Yeah, he got a bunch of heat for this. I think, look, I reviewed that movie. I reviewed it on Film Week. I enjoyed that movie. It's an exuberant movie. It's a celebration of the Latinx culture. It has some interesting storytelling techniques to it. It's a bit of a magical realism thing going on in that movie. So it's doing things in cinema that couldn't be done on stage, an adaptation of the stage play. Right? Obviously, the sort of influences of the film are sort of right there. You can, I've always said that you can tell that Lin-Manuel was a child of that Rent era, that when he was 14, 15, 16 years old, he was going to see Rent. And all of that shows up.
So true.
in all of these in all these adaptations of his, which is perfectly fine. That's okay too. You know, we all get built from something. The heat that he took about the casting of the film, this, that, and the other thing. I don't know. It all seemed to me to be a little bit Johnny come lately, a little bit after the fact. You know, I mean, that film got made almost 2 years ago. And everybody knew who was in it and who was playing what and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. It just seemed to me to be a little bit after the fact. That said, for the future, I guess you know, we'll all just be a little bit more astute about how we're doing these things. And certainly we're not in any kind of position anymore where the suggestion is, I can't find anybody to play this role. Well, you can. There's somebody to play this role. Who's I'm always making fun of. George Chakiris and
in West Side Story.
In West Side, the Greek guy playing the Puerto Rican guy. We don't need to do that anymore. That said, you know, I think that was just all. You know, this is a good movie, and it felt good. And unless you really had some sort of a very specific dog in that fight, most folks wouldn't even know what folks were talking about.
Well, here's the one where I'm going to do my mea culpa again. Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I am forever immortalized on the internet from my Sucker Punch rant, which I did on Stupid for Movies, which I hosted with Mark way back when. And I had to see Sucker Punch, and I lost my mind on camera, and I ranted about Zack Snyder and how I hated him and I hated all of his movies. And here, flash forward to his corrective cut of Justice League, all 4 hours of it, which is like 70% new material. There's only like 40 minutes in this thing that is common with the Joss Whedon cut of the film. And I have gone back and compared those two films time and time again. Tim, if I were teaching a class, I would show both of those cuts. I would spend an entire semester just on those two movies. People would kids would hate me, but I would spend an entire class showing them this is why you can't ever say what's on the page is what's going to wind up on the screen. Because there was a script that turned into two completely different movies. So different that they share almost nothing in common. I mean, it's really extraordinary. And I gotta say, as much as I hate that Joss Whedon film, and I truly hate it, I think even though it is deeply flawed, Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League is kind of a small masterpiece. It's
very much about a different subject matter. The specific events that happened notwithstanding, he managed to make a movie that was fundamentally about a different subject, and it gives weight to different characters. I don't want to mess it up for anybody, but the way the original movie, I guess we'll call it the original movie, is constructed and weighted, what characters are doing what and why they're doing the things that they're doing and what it all means. None of that is true in the Zack Snyder cut. Different characters are weighted in different ways, and the reason for why they're doing the things that they're doing are different reasons and more salient reasons, and thus making it all matter in a completely different way.
I'm going to straight up say restore the Snyderverse. I don't know that Warner ever will eat the humble pie necessary to let him complete this saga, because there are technically two more films to complete this story arc. We'll probably never see them. It's really sad. But boy, I'll tell you, here's what I find impressive, because especially when you watch Man of Steel, which I don't think is great, and then Batman versus Superman, which I thought was pretty poor, except watching his extended cut of that, which is like an extra half hour or whatever in it. It's a better film. It is a better film. But there's something really interesting that goes on, which is that Superman as a character is psychoanalyzed to a significant degree. And here's this guy who has all of these issues. He's an alien, but he's on Earth. Who is he? The powers of a god. How do you use them? There are all kinds of really interesting ethical dilemmas that go on with that because he didn't ask to be a superhero. And by the time you get into Justice League, where he is a figure of the past, right? He's dead from the end of Superman versus Batman. That's a spoiler. If you don't know that, you've been living in a cave. And, but the story arc of people who didn't ask to be heroes is still there. And it is most personified in Cyborg, Ray Fisher's character, which was stripped in the Whedon cut. Whedon just turned Cyborg into a guy who was pissed off. He was just pissed off all the time.
Angry black guy.
Angry black guy, which he hated. That's why Ray Fisher went ballistic after that. He's like, you hired me for this, and then you cut my part to ribbons. All of the backstory is restored. His relationship with his mom, his relationship with his dad, his athletic career. You see him smile, and it's done in this surreal way, in this really kind of avant-garde, vision-like way that is absolutely poetic. And I love that that's restored. I love that Flash's story is restored. I have not been a fan of Ezra Miller as the Flash, not in any way. I thought that's weird casting. Like, why don't you go and get my boy from television?
Grant Gustin, yeah.
Go get Grant Gustin, bring him along. Yeah. Now I understand where they were going, what they were going for, because there's that whole sequence, right, where with he's getting the job, and then he looks out, and and the accident, and I won't give anything away, but it changes it. It changes his character. It changes his character completely. He is now someone who really is only comfortable at hyper speed. He's disconnected from life at normal speed, but at super speed, everything makes sense to him. It's normal. I mean, there's a lot of poetry in that film, and it doesn't all hang together, but boy, it's ambitious. And I apologize to Zack Snyder for my rant. I still don't like Sucker Punch. I still think it's an awful movie, but
no reason to like Sucker Punch. 30 Days of Night either, for that matter. I agree with you completely. Particularly about Ray's, because Ray took a whole bunch of folks to task, not just Whedon, but executives. I mean, it's a whole thing. I guess we talk about it. Where do we talk about it? We talk about it someplace.
We talk about it on our Godcast, on the Godcast.
Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah. The whole Black Superman thing. A lot going on there, and it's a very, very different movie. So if you've seen the first one, you have to see this one just to understand what the intention was in the first place, and we'll have to see whether or not any of the rest of it works out.
All right, we got a couple of Universal titles here, also with Movies Anywhere on them, and they are Boss Baby Family Business and F9 The Fast Saga. Hopefully wrapping out these two franchises forever. I was just at Universal Studios with my daughter, her first time at Universal Studios, and actually. Boss Baby's DreamWorks. It's not, normal Universal, but it is. But nonetheless, we were subjected to a lot of Boss Baby and F9 and Fast and Furious there when we were there. So Tim, did we need another Boss Baby movie?
No.
Thank you. Done.
Moving on. We didn't need that Fast 9 either, brother.
Okay, we're done.
I remember covering that first Fast, and I covered that first Fast and the Furious movie somewhat reluctantly and kind of pissy because I didn't want to go see that movie. And I saw it and I liked it, and I remember and I wrote about it and I talked about it and in the whole sort of thing. I was like, well, that's great. But if you had asked me then, and that's 20 years ago, I think we're talking, if they're going to be still making these movies 20 years hence, I would have said, why the hell would that happen? That doesn't make any sense. Why would they still be making these movies today? But here we are. They're still making those movies. On the other hand, I think on these 4Ks, we've got those 4 original Star Trek movies, right? In a collection, the original.
Yes,
Star Trek
we do.
collection.
That's the end of our 4K coverage. So I'm just going to say I love Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I saw it 3 times on opening day. I saw it probably 27 times in initial release. I still defend it. Wrath of Khan. I know Mark Kaiser loves it. It's his favorite one. Everyone else loves it. I hate it. Search for Spock. Not a fan. Star Trek 4, with the whales and
Ford's Home, yeah.
truly despise it. So there are 3 of these films that I just hate, but Star Trek the Motion Picture is great, so I'm going to stick with that. Your thoughts?
I love all those movies. Sorry, I'm that guy. First of all, the first film, the Robert Wise film, which is in people at the time, I remember, I think what was that, 79 or something like that?
Yeah.
So I was graduating from high school, and obviously I'd been a big fan of it, and everybody was all pissy about that movie. There was not enough action, nothing happened, and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, it's a Robert Wise film. The Day the Earth Stood Still. It's a thinking person's a Star Trek film. Plus,
thank you.
There are all kinds of amazing big ideas in these films. So it just sort of blew me away,
So I have to go. It's very 2001-ish in a lot of respects, and that's Roddenberry too. But here's the thing: so I was such a geek at the time that with 2 of my friends, we saw it so many times that we basically had memorized the entire movie. And by the like the 20th time that we were seeing it, we were sitting there and we were trying to outdo each other. Such nerds, by like literally reciting the lines while the movie's playing, because we're sitting, by then it had played out. We're sitting in the theater at the Topanga Plaza Theater, and the print is all scratchy because this thing's been playing for months now. This is, it like opened in December or something like that, and here we are in March, it's second run or third run theater. And there's that point in there where Ilea, now that she's been all kind of, transformed, they arrive at V'ger, and she turns and she points through the screen and says, V'ger. And here I am in that theater, and we're all competing, and my buddy, when it comes to that point, in order to outdo everybody, he stands up in the middle of the theater and he points to the screen and goes, V'ger, right in the middle of the theater. I laughed so hard. It was just unbelievable. I've never laughed so hard in my life.
Oh my God.
So
oh my God.
It's anyway. All right. Well, that's there. They're all at 4K in one box set plus Blu-rays, by the way. All the extras are on the Blu-ray discs. So you get 4K and Blu-ray in one box set. It's pretty great.
You should have saw the Search for Spock coming though. Because after the rock,
of course,
they had to make a, effectively one of those effective Westerns. So they had to take it up a notch. Besides, isn't that the one where we get the sort of dark Captain Kirk who's kind of pissy? Who says let him die? That's that one, right? Yeah, I got to tell you that pissy Captain Kirk. I was like, you know what, homie? Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. That dude. I think he killed his son or something like that.
It's
right.
It's when yes, it was his son, played by Merrick Buttrick from Square Pegs. Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. I was that movie was kind of plus Ricardo Montalban. Come on, man, looking exactly the same. As he did in that 1960 whatever it would have been episode. Ricardo, he looked the same until the day he died. That man did not age. He was like rich Corinthian leather, Ricardo.
Yeah, I know. And still, it didn't feel Star Trek-y enough to me. It like tried to erase the first film. And I remember at the time I was so mad. I wrote this long letter to Starlog magazine arguing all the things that were wrong with it. And never finished it. Never finished it. I'm sure I've got a copy of it sitting around somewhere. Let's talk some TV if we could. We got a couple of, we're coming up on Halloween here fairly soon. We're going to have a great Halloween show as we do. But if you want to get your scares in early for Halloween, got a couple of great Shudder titles here. Shudder exclusive, The Power, and a Shudder original, Slacks. I don't really know what the difference is between a Shudder original and a Shudder exclusive. Maybe somebody could tell us. Gods at DigiGods.com or gods at cinegods.com. Go ahead and tell us. But The Power, I think, is a really, really cool movie. It's kind of, something we've seen before. It takes place in 1974 in London, and there are these blackouts, going all over the city. And there's this nurse in this really messed up, down and dirty old hospital. And it's all kind of evacuated because of the blackouts, and she's there. And it's, of course, spooky things happen. I won't tell you exactly what, but, it's some good scares. It's really, it's pretty good. It was written and directed by Corinna Faith. And I say that because there's something different about the way that women do horror from the way that men do horror. So, Corinna Faith, I don't know who you are as a filmmaker, but you're solid and you're good. And I hope they give you bigger budgets to do some really, really cool things in the future, because it's not a typical woman in jeopardy movie, as they very often are, right? When a woman directs it, it seems less prurient, and she's sort of focusing on a different aspect of the woman in jeopardy. And the other one is called Slacks, Slaxx. Get it? Yuck, yuck. There's a great quote on the cover of this, and I just have to. It's from Nerdist, which our friend and fellow cinegod Luke Thompson writes for. It says, "The best movie about killer genes you could hope for." And that kind of sums it up. This is about a pair of genes that are possessed. And if that sounds weird and hilarious and just freakish, it is. I'm sure they thought up the title before they thought up the movie, but it's about killer genes. It's literally about killer genes, and it's weird because this is officially stranger than the movie about the bed that eats people. That old exploitation film about
what was the one with the rubber, the tire, the tire.
It's just weird, killer genes. So Slacks, Slaxx, you're gonna laugh, and you're still gonna be scared. It kind of cuts it up. It finds that crazy middle road. What else do we have?
The mayor of Easttown was the mayor of Easttown, Kate Winslet. Kate was nominated the other night, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Kate may have won that Emmy Award the other night.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be corrected otherwise. Anyway, Kate Winslet is really, really good in that series. Small town Pennsylvania, a local murder she's investigating, and all the sort of family machinations going on. Juliana Nicholson's Juliana Nicholson won an Emmy the other night.
That's right. She did.
I'm
so happy for her. She's so good. She's been so due.
That's right. for a while now. And of course, Jean Smart, who also won an Emmy the other night, but I think she won the Emmy for Hacks, but may have also been nominated also in this series. So the ladies, the women, Kate and Juliana and Jean Smart, really doing some just fantastic work in some of these amazing sort of series that these folks, I mean, Kate Winslet has really come around, a fairly youngish movie star. What would that be, like the early 90s when we first meet Kate? What was Fierce Creatures or something like that? That also
it was the Peter Jackson film.
With her and the other girl who killed the parents.
Yeah.
And here she is now. Man, she's come full circle. She's come just fantastic work.
So here, I'm going to give everybody some advice. Mayor of Easttown, watch it before you watch the SNL spoof featurette, Murder Dirter. Because I watched Murder Dirter first, and I now cannot watch any of Mayor of Easttown because I just start laughing because of the accents. Did you see Murder Dirter?
Yes, he said you're right.
They murdered my dirter. Oh my gosh. I can't, it's so funny. It's so insanely funny.
Yeah, if those accents get brought to your attention, then it can undermine almost anything. Yeah, I have a hard time with Mystic River. Was the one with all the guys? Is that
Mystic River?
Yeah, I have a hard time with that one now too. At the time, it was just like this. It seemed like intense drama, intense. But now, man, those accents.
So we got a bunch of NCIS here. So let me just hit you. NCIS New Orleans, the complete series is out. And if that's too much for you, they also have the final season out. I gotta say, man, there are a lot of guys, Robert Conrad and William Shatner, who've had these long careers on multiple TV shows, right? Where they just go from being star of one show to another. Robert Conrad, I think, was the king of that. He had like 5 TV shows, never got thoroughly pigeonholed into any one. Yeah. And Scott Bakula is pretty close, man. Scott Bakula has he has anchored so many shows, and NCIS New Orleans it just proves he's the man. He holds it down. He wears his age, and I kind of like NCIS New Orleans. I don't really like any of the other ones all that much, but I like this one. So
I like the atmosphere of that one. Sherm did a couple of those. Yeah. But I like the atmosphere of that one. And you're right about Scott. For sure. Scott did a bit on the Emmys the other night talking about how he's been on television since 1977. Scott's a St. Louis boy, by the way. Call out St. Louis.
Wow.
Since 1977, Scott. And he has anchored the Quantum Leap.
Yep.
Enterprise.
Yeah.
Obviously the NCIS series that he's in now.
He's got at least two others,
and not to mention the whole. Regulars in Murphy Brown. He came in all this kind of stuff like that. Not once nominated for an Emmy. The bit he was doing was kind of funny because he was kind of pissy about it.
Yeah, you know what?
But it was hysterical. It's kind of funny.
He can just look at his bank statement if that's ever bothersome to him.
Yeah,
that man is set forever. You know, what else is set forever is pretty much. Well, gosh, everybody who's in all these things, but Mark Harmon is seriously set for forever. 18 years of the original NCIS is just amazing to me. How you can get that much out of a naval criminal investigative service and all these different shows is incredible. 18 seasons of this thing. That's like rivaling Law and Order. This is, it keeps on trucking, man. It's unbelievable. It's really insane. Let's talk for a second about NCIS Los Angeles, which is now in its 12th season. I can't believe that.
Well, that's going to be LL and O'Donnell and
Chris O'Donnell. Yeah,
that's that one, right? Our homie Sherman did a couple of those too.
And you know what? I love Chris O'Donnell. I really love LL. I think LL is great. And I'm glad that they but for some reason, maybe it's because this is our backyard. This show I don't enjoy watching it. I'll catch an episode now and again. And to me, it's just like, I know where they're shooting at, and
I know that house.
I know that house. I know that street. They at that cut, they just went around that corner, and they're in a different part of town. That last shot is 5 miles away from this shot. I don't. You do that kind of thing. And
look, this is the thing about that show that always bugged me. They have the crime, whatever the crime is, and these guys go out and I think to myself, I wake up every day in L.A. and none of these crimes, none of these exotic, wacky, dingbat crimes are ever. Look, we have crime. There's crime in L.A., believe it or not, folks. But it's just your ordinary goofball crime. Your goofy murder over here, the wacky thing over there. Every now and again, a Robert Durst will pull some wacky shit off. But L.A. is not the frankly, London, if you want to pick places where crazy crimes happen, of the world. It's just not. It's just the most ordinary sort of criminal profile of any city on the planet. But somehow on this show, the craziest murders in the world keep happening. And I'm like, you're making crap up, people. You're just making crap up.
Tim, how is it possible that Tom Selleck has been on Blue Bloods longer than he was Magnum P.I.?
How is that possible? This is what's even worse. The new Magnum P.I. has been Magnum P.I. longer than Tom Selleck was Magnum P.I. And that that is just absolutely obscene to me. That's the same thing with the new MacGyver. The new MacGyver's been MacGyver longer than the other guy was MacGyver. But there it is. Tommy, again, 40 years on TV, dude. 40 years.
I know. Blue Bloods 11th season, still going strong. And the crazy thing is that Tom Selleck, who's got to be pushing 80, right? He's got
in the pocket. He's in late 70s for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, he still looks the same. He looks like Magnum. He's almost not aged at all. It's really surreal. I just don't know what to make of that. But I always go back to when he first broke through as that hilarious character on Rockford Files. Yeah. Hilarious scene-stealing bit where he was the guy who always said to somebody, "Put him up," before you punch him. And Rockford says, "What do you mean? You don't say put him up. You don't give the guy a chance. You gotta hit him." Nope. He was an upstanding guy. Yeah. Put him up.
He was a good guy.
Give him an even chance. Bam! Hits him in the face. So funny. So priceless.
It's particularly funny because Jim Rockford used to get knocked out in every episode of that show.
That's right. That's right.
That's why I love that show. Oh, man. Oh, dude, the Murdoch Mysteries, Blu-ray, season 14. Murdoch Mysteries. I came to the Murdoch Mysteries late, but that's another one that's been on forever. I think you've got season 14 or something like that over there. But the Murdoch Mysteries Canadian series It's just this absolutely fantastic series that I think first popped up in the U.S. here. It's syndicated. And then finally sort of migrated its way into the sort of mainstream. But I absolutely adore the Murdoch Mysteries. Season 14, is that what you got?
Season 14. It is on from Acorn TV. It's on Blu-ray from the prolific and very, very solid ITV Studios, who also does Downton Abbey in the UK. This is, it's solid, man. It's really solid. A lot of good stuff coming out of Canada. We talked about that on Film Week recently too. Bestsellers with Michael Caine. Yeah. A lot of great talent in Canada. Come on, go Canada. We need more of that. I wrote a great piece on Canadian cinema that nobody ever paid attention to about 20 years ago.
All right. I paid attention to this. The Equalizer. Queen Latifah. Okay, look. The Equalizer. First of all, you talk about Ed. You talk about me and you. We have to be talking about Edward. You got to go way back.
And then Denzel.
And then, of course, Denzel in the movie series, which is not particularly connected to what was going on in Edward. Now, what Queen is doing has more in common with what was going on in that original 1980s series. Yeah, for sure. She's a woman, but it's sort of in the same realm. So I love me some Queen Latifah, but I'm not sure I buy her just knocking cats out. Queen Latifah knocks out 3 people in every episode of this show.
We talked about this in the Godcast as well, and this is where I'm kind of drawing the line on a lot of this IP obsession, right? We talked about talking about going into Black Superman, about the greatest American hero, reinventing that as a South Asian woman. It's like, okay, well, hold on. If you want to make a movie or a TV series where a South Asian woman becomes an unexpected and reluctant superhero or a superheroine, well, then do that. Yeah. But don't call it the greatest American hero. Make it its own thing. Don't give her someone else's hand-me-downs. The Equalizer. Okay, look. The Equalizer is Edward Woodward. I get the whole thing, but what Denzel is really playing as the Equalizer is Man on Fire. Yes. He's still doing his Man on Fire character as the Equalizer. Yeah, which is awesome, but
doesn't even have the same backstory, really.
It's not even the same backstory. So call it something else. If you want to make a show where Queen is a straight up action, she's just kicking butt left and right, and she's just laying the law down, then do that. But why you gotta call it the Equalizer?
I don't know.
Why?
That bugs me, man. It bugs me. That's what we were talking about. It just bugs me. And, I get that they call it exploitation for a reason. Yeah. But it seems to me that you're locking the creative forces, the creative dynamic into a box that has something to do with a different character and a different world and different things, rather than giving them an expansive sort of palette to work from that doesn't require them to sort of adhere to it. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, it rubs me the wrong way.
Blacklist. We got the 8th season of the Blacklist, which is still going strong, man. It's going into its 9th season soon. I remember when this thing premiered. I can't believe it's been 8 years. I did not think this was going to last more than a year, maybe 2. Hell with me. James Spader, he's getting kind of old and flabby, but he's totally holding it down. He's still a great, great actor. And, they have found all kinds of really weird ways of keeping this narrative alive, and I give them credit for it. I give them real credit for it. Megan Boone, I'd never heard of her before, but they're already, show keeps on trucking.
Yeah. I do like Spader in his sort of big character mode that he sort of went into. Once the looks went away and the hair started to fall out, he just shifted gears and went into character mode, and you gotta kind of love that. What's with that Burt Sugarman's The Soul of the Midnight Special? I love Burt Sugarman's Midnight Special. I love the Midnight Special. Growing up watching those concerts, man, because these are people that I would not necessarily see in the world in reality. What do you got?
And we are going to geek out here for a second, you and I, because this is our generation, and anybody who's younger than we are can just you can tune out for a minute. This is so good. This is just so good. It's just great 70s soul from the Midnight Special. Midnight Special was one of those shows from the 60s and 70s where you could, if you were up late on a Friday or a Saturday night, there was always some show that would bring you into a concert venue. And if, you were too young, or if you couldn't afford to actually go to one, or if you were in a city that didn't have one. And this whole time I was too young. I'm sitting at home. I'm watching TV. I'm not going to Hollywood clubs on Saturday night or whatever. I'm doing homework for middle school or, whatever. And this is a chance to kind of step out and enjoy a concert. And man, there's some good stuff on here. I mean, really, this is just exclusively a collection of the soul highlights from Midnight Special. Burt Sugarman, obviously producer and promoter. Yeah. And here's some of what you get. You get Brothers Johnson. You get James Brown. You get Isaac Hayes. Sly and the Family Stone. The Spinners, Teddy Pendergrass, the OJs, Curtis Mayfield, Al Green, Aretha Franklin, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Commodores, Natalie Cole, Peebo Bryson, Barry freaking White, Lou Rawls, Billy Preston. It just does. Ohio Players. It just doesn't end, man. It's really, really terrific. Gladys and the Pips. It's great. You you sit down. This is from Time Life. It's 2 volumes. The first one is 1973 to 76. The next one is 74 to 1980. That is just an absolutely golden period. You just sit down and you just let this thing roll. You could have hours and hours and hours of enjoyment. It's absolutely great. I can't.
And well produced stuff too.
Really well produced.
It actually
live, by the way, live music
and remastered. It sounds great. It's not all flat and tinny and in mono. It's really, really, really good stuff.
Yeah, it's great. Loving it. So let's talk about Batwoman, which is now in the second season. We got new Batwoman.
Yeah. So this Ruby Rose had to tap out after a season or two? Was it a whole season or two?
She did have to tap out. So now we've got a whole thing with this. Like, they didn't just recast this because just as like Batman is an absentee figure in Batwoman the first season, now Kate Kane has gone missing, and this 25-year-old girl named Ryan Wilder finds the Batsuit in the wreckage of a plane crash and steps up. And this is a whole new kind of Batwoman thing, which I thought was a really interesting way to solve the problem. I would have expected them to just like, all right, let's find a new actress. But they didn't.
Oh yeah. Pull the thing off where they just bring in another actress with we're just going to all pretend like that's the same person. No, and of course, most of that season, a big chunk of that season is spent trying to solve the question of, is Kate alive or dead? If she is alive, where is she, and all of that. So it's never a thing of where this is Batwoman. No, for one thing, it's a black girl, so it's definitely not the same Batwoman. So that's sort of okay. What I like about that season more than Batwoman, she's that character, that actress, she's so lovely, is they bring in a whole bunch of interesting villains. Of course, we have Alice in the Wonderland Gang, which is a carryover from the previous story. Alice is Kate's sister, but there's a whole other slew of villains that they bring in that are a lot of fun. They're not the traditional Batman villains. There's no equivalent of the Joker or equivalent of the Riddler or anything like that. So I kind of dig that about that series. They're having to think of some new stuff as opposed to say like Gotham, which was the Batman series about the young Batman,
right?
Where they're just basically figuring out ways to introduce familiar characters to us, so we get to meet the young Joker and the young Riddler and all that kind of stuff. This one, they have to think of some new stuff, and I kind of like that.
Want to make a couple of quick. Well, let me mention some older stuff here. Just kind of get this out of the way before we get into a couple of other quick things. Some old TV, The Two Worlds of Jenny Logan with Lindsay Wagner and Mark Singer. Wonderful. Lindsay Wagner is just too often associated only with being the Bionic Woman.
The Bionic Woman, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is from 1979. Wonderful television movie. She's terrific in it. Really, really good. It's on Blu-ray. You got to check that out. That's just a wonderful performance. Shows her as an actress and all as well as anything she's ever done. We also have Guyana, Cult of the Damned, which was the Jim Jones movie. Really surprisingly very, very good, actually, with Stuart Whitman playing Jim Jones very effectively. I think this captures that entire ugly episode. Also from 1979, pretty much to the T. This is, it's a little exploitation-y, but it really does hit the beats as they actually transpired. And then this really bizarre show that I had never heard of before, 39 episodes, originally aired on ABC, Code 3, LA Sheriff's Case Files, the complete series. totally surreal. This is, like from like 1950, late 50s, I believe it was. Only, one season, but it was like incredibly young actors who would go on to do other things.
Mm.
I mean, like DeForest Kelley is in this as a young man. You got the professor from Gilligan's Island. Claude Akins, really young. Mike Connors.
Oh my gosh.
Dick Sargent. I mean, it's really kind of amazing. And this was back before even the FBI, before, like, probably concurrent with Dragnet, when they're looking for stories in case files, right? But really an interesting show. Stars this guy named Richard Travis, that I'm totally unfamiliar with. But I got to tell you, man, that young DeForest Kelley, aces, totally aces. That guy always had it going on. We also got some Ultraman here. On Blu-ray, we've got Ultraman Zero, 2 movies and a bunch of specials. Ultraman Zero, Dark Ops Zero, Revenge of Belial. I mean, it's all the same to me at this point. The helmets and the horns are the only thing that differentiate them. Then a box set on DVD, the complete series of Ultraman 80, Our Hero from a Distant Star. This is starting to look a lot more Power Ranger-y at this point. It's a little bit cheesy. And then there's the animated Ultraman complete series, just known as The Ultraman, which is pretty cool. It has a certain filmation quality to it that I'm sure Mark Kaiser would totally lose his mind over. But 50 episodes, and they do things that you can get away with in the animation that you can't really get away with in the live action. So whole lot of Ultraman there. Let's knock off a couple more before we tune out. Tim, anything look particularly good to you here?
Are we still over in television? I see.
Still on TV.
Young Sheldon is moved into its 4th season. Young Sheldon, of course, being the spinoff from The Big Bang Theory about the Young Sheldon. Man, these things go by so fast. That's completely insane. Magnum PI. We were talking about Magnum PI. The new Magnum PI. This is its 3rd season. Which is also a little bit crazy to me. SEAL Team is in its 4th season.
I didn't think that was going to last that long either.
Yeah, and
I really didn't.
You're blowing me away. The Good Doctor in its 4th season. I think you got these things are really, really just blowing me away. How long they're sort of hanging around. It tells me I'm not as good at SWAT is in its 4th season.
I know. These are all veteran shows now.
These are all veteran shows now. Just made a whole lot of people a whole lot of money. And I got to tell you, almost every one of them to a one, I said, would not last 15 seconds. Some of that was just my old man jealousy thing going on, angry, pissy about my shows, MacGyver and Magnum PI and all that kind of stuff. But I got to tell you, it's interesting to me that a lot of these shows, that the judgment of some of these studios and greenlighting execs was correct. For whatever reason, there was an audience for 3 seasons of Magnum PI for people who could not possibly have watched our Magnum PI. I just don't believe for a second that, a bunch of 45 and 50-year-olds, and in my case, 60-year-olds, who watched Tom Selleck in that original show are watching this new show. It's got to be a different audience. It's just got to be.
Don't you hate admitting that?
It burns the hell out of me, but I'm a big enough guy to admit it. It still burns the hell out of me, though. Anyway, all of those shows, 3rd and 4th and sometimes 5th seasons. Apparently, there's something to this whole, IP thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna wrap us out with a mention of Fear the Walking Dead, which is now, believe it or not, in its 6th season.
Yeah.
Fear the Walking Dead, 6 years. Really kind of amazing. You know what? Lenny James is absolutely terrific. Really, really holds this thing down.
Yeah.
It's still a zombie show. I mean, but it's all about the characters. It's all about the chemistry between the characters, the family, the survival, the tension. They're still pulling it off, even with, all the showrunner changes and the spin-offs and everything else. They've somehow turned the whole Walking Dead thing into a franchise like NCIS and Law and Order and CSI and all the rest of them. And then got a whole bunch of stuff here from Acorn, which I'll make try to make quick mention of before we just tune the show out. These are all really, really solid shows. Acorn has a lot of great stuff, that they cull from overseas. This Swedish series Bäckström, which is in its first series, is really, really great and really tough stuff from Scandinavia. Their cop shows are so good. And this guy Kjell Bergqvist, who stars as Everett Bäckström, the detective at the center of this thing, is just so good. And it's really, really great forensic procedural stuff. And I hope they don't remake it here because they'll just absolutely completely ruin it.
They did.
They remade Bäckström?
They remade it and ruined it. It was with that guy Rainn Wilson from the. From
did they really?
Yeah,
well, see, that's why I don't. That's why I don't watch this stuff. Thank you for letting me know. I'll know what to look out for. A great Welsh show with Eve Miles called Keeping Faith, which is now in its third series. It's just beautiful, beautiful first-rate production value. Some amazing, great British performers from the UK show up in this thing. Just absolutely terrific acting. You really, really want to watch this. It's she plays a lawyer. It's a legal thriller, but it's just absolutely first rate. And Eve Miles, I don't want to take her away from the UK, but boy, she'd be good in something in Hollywood. And then Vikram Seth's bestseller, A Suitable Boy, has been produced for television in a really, really wonderful way. It's 6 episodes. I'm not familiar with the book, but BBC Studios did this. It shows up here on Acorn TV. And it's absolutely wonderful. It's directed by Mira Nair, who of course, is the perfect person to do this. And she just brings all the cultural sensibilities that she needs to as someone who is, Indian, lives in Uganda, works in the United States and in the UK. Mira is a citizen of the world, and she brings all of that worldliness to this. It's just absolutely delightful. Maybe the most wonderful thing that I've seen her do since Monsoon Wedding. So A Suitable Boy is just absolutely delightful. Don't miss it. Lastly, James Nesbitt in Bloodlands, which is, more just gritty British. It's Irish in this case. It's just gritty Irish toughness. It's cold and it's procedural and it's all about cold cases, and James Nesbitt is just such a great crusty figure. It's really, really good. And then lastly, Balthazar Series 3, which we've talked about before, still going strong. Really, really good cop show. More forensic stuff, forensic pathology and whatnot. 8 episodes on this one. Also produced by ITV, which we mentioned earlier, the company, the television production company that is behind so much great stuff, including Downton Abbey. So there it is. That's it for the week. Tim, what you going to do this week?
I'm going to quietly avoid the Delta variant and everything else. Actually, I'm on the radio this coming Friday, so I'm crunching movies like you would not believe.
I know the drill.
That's the drill. And other than that, things should be fine. As we move into the fall season, of course, we're going to be looking forward to all of the rest of the sort of award programs and everything. It's starting around, I don't know, in the next month or so, things will get underway legit. More film festivals, more people back in the real world. So things, I don't know, looking a little bit more normal. Yeah,
our award season onslaught's going to start pretty soon,
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to time things a little bit more different, because how everything happened so quick last year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I hope we figure that one out this year, and it's not all just so jammed up. I just a little bit more time. I need a little bit more time. I can't watch so many movies all at once.
I hear you. Well, let's hope so. Otherwise, we wish everyone well. Stay safe out there, and we will see you in probably a couple of weeks.
All right.